Mario, sitting on the new veranda overlooking the garden, watched the sun slowly sinking towards the horizon. That twilight, different from all the ones he had seen before, made him think of the beauty of small things, the chirping of birds, the scent of freshly cut grass, the warmth of a silent embrace that nature seemed to offer him. He was no longer the old man, alone and resigned. Inside himself he felt a spark of rebirth, almost as if every ray of light awakened dormant memories and new hopes. In the days that followed, Mario began to explore every corner of the house that had been returned to him. The structure, despite being a renovation, carried with it the essence of times gone by, with those small details that only those who had lived there for a long time could appreciate. The walls had been restored, but they retained traces of old brush strokes, as if they wanted to tell stories from the past. Every scratch and every mark was an indelible memory of happy and also painful moments. Every crack tells a piece of my story, he thought to himself, smiling bitterly. His new life seemed like a puzzle with many pieces still missing. So, he decided to lend a hand where he could. With the help of his son, he began to restore the garden he had always loved. It wasn't just about growing potatoes or tomatoes, but about rediscovering that deep bond with the land, that sense of belonging that nature can give. Every morning, armed with old tools and a newfound determination, Mario devoted himself to caring for the plants, talking to them as if they were companions for a long life. "You see, old friends, you too have a story to tell," he murmured, his voice trembling but full of passion. Time passed and, while Mario worked, he began to receive visits not only from his family, but also from his new neighbors. There was Mrs. Lucia, a lively woman full of anecdotes, who had taken to bringing him homemade cookies and stories about the neighborhood. In her direct and genuine way, Lucia explained to him how times had changed, but that under modernity there were still living traditions, such as celebrating every small success with a sincere laugh. Thanks to her, Mario learned to look beyond the pain of the past and to let himself be involved in that community that, despite everything, welcomed him with open arms. One evening, during one of those quiet evenings when the family gathered to have dinner together, Mario's son proposed a surprise. He had organized a small garden party, inviting relatives and longtime friends, to celebrate not only the new home, but also the courage of a man who had been able to transform his loneliness into a new opportunity. The soft lights, the candles that illuminated the smiling faces and the notes of an old song played by an improvised pianist created an almost magical atmosphere. Mario, with shining eyes and a pounding heart, realized that he was no longer just a burden to be eliminated, but a loved man, at the center of an affectionate network that restored his dignity and human warmth. During that evening, Mario's daughter-in-law approached him and, in a voice full of tenderness, confided in him, "Dad, I know you've been through difficult times, but I want you to know that your presence is a gift to us. Every experience of yours, every story of yours is precious and part of us." That simple phrase struck a chord with Mario, who, until that moment, had always tried to hide his suffering. The words of those who loved him resonated in him like a hymn to life, making him understand that there were no limits when it came to affection and understanding. As the weeks passed, Mario found the courage to rediscover himself. He began to write a diary, noting every little emotion, every detail that made him feel alive. The pages, initially dark and silent, filled with memories of youth, anecdotes about his marriage to Anna, and moments of pure happiness that, despite the pain of loss, made their way between the lines. Writing is like relighting a candle in a dark room, he reflected as he traced with a calligraphed pen those thoughts that made him vibrate. It was during one of those evenings, when the rain was gently tapping against the windows of the old house, that Mario found a dusty box in an old drawer. Inside, among faded photographs and love letters, he discovered forgotten details of a past he thought was lost. He reread Anna's words, heard her voice in every written sentence, and for a moment, the pain was transformed into gratitude for those moments spent together. It was then that he decided to share that treasure with the family. He organized an evening of stories, where each of them, in turn, revealed a memory, a little story that tied them inextricably. That sharing revived in Mario a sense of belonging, as if every word spoken was another brick in the reconstruction of his identity. In addition to personal emotions, Mario's new life led him to rediscover forgotten passions. One of these was music. An old vinyl record, found among the remains of a past that had almost vanished, sparked a spark in him. He decided to organize musical evenings in the small living room of the house, inviting young and old to share songs and memories. Those evenings soon became a regular event. Around an old record player, between laughter and a few tears, Mario's house transformed into a place of meeting and exchange, where music was the universal language that united different generations. The garden, cared for day after day, became his kingdom. Every plant, every flower, was for him a symbol of rebirth. With the help of his son and neighbor Lucia, he organized small outdoor events, lunches in the garden, themed parties, and even an evening dedicated to peasant stories, where legends and myths related to the land were told. On those occasions, Mario felt like a wise old man, someone who had seen and experienced many things, and who now, with humility and a smile, shared his wisdom with those who were willing to listen. There were moments of deep reflection. Long walks in the woods near the house led him to meditate on the meaning of life. Maybe old age is not a sentence, but an opportunity, he thought as he watched the leaves dance in the wind. In those moments, the memory of Anna made him cry, but at the same time strengthened him, reminding him that love, once lived intensely, is never truly lost, but transforms into that inner strength capable of illuminating even the darkest days. Over time, Mario realized that each person around him had a story to tell. During one of those afternoons spent chatting with the postman, he discovered that the latter also carried with him a past full of anecdotes and broken dreams. Listening to those stories made him feel less alone, as if each encounter was a piece of a mosaic that, taken together, represented the beauty of humanity. We are all pieces of a giant puzzle, he thought, and from that moment on he tried to get to know those around him better, asking questions and listening carefully, as if each word could teach him something new. One morning, as the sun peeked out from behind the clouds, Mario found in his diary a little message he had written on a particularly dark day: "There is no final goodbye, only new paths to travel." Those words, written in a moment of desperation, now seemed like a guide to him. He then decided to take a trip, even if only a short one, to visit the country where he had spent his youth. The trip was a true revelation. He met familiar faces, revisited places he had almost forgotten, and in every corner he found that spark that had once driven him to dream. When he returned home, Mario felt lighter, as if the trip had given him back pieces of himself that he had thought were lost forever. In the end, Mario understood that the real home was not a physical place, but the sum of feelings, bonds, and memories that are built over time. His family, his neighbors, even the strangers he met on the street, were an integral part of that great mosaic that was his life. With a new serenity, Mario decided to embrace every moment, accepting that old age could also bring with it moments of immense beauty and gratitude. His story, made of pain and rebirth, had transformed into a hymn to life, a testimony that it is never too late to rediscover the pleasure of being loved and of loving. So, every evening, sitting by the window and looking at the starry sky, Mario smiled, thinking about how lucky he was. He had learned that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light ready to illuminate the path. And as the stars began to dot the sky, he knew that, despite everything, the future still held infinite possibilities, ready to be lived with all your heart.